Good afternoon. Today is the 19th of February. The weather is a little bit grim. We would probably be recording in the Sanyong otherwise, but a bit dark in there, so we've used a Rover and the lovely sunroof. And it's time to answer some of your questions. I've had an awful lot of questions. One thing I would say is if you didn't put the question on the video from Wednesday, I probably won't be answering it. I have checked to see if I've had any others. I did have one from the live stream that came afterwards. I'm not going to actually answer that because it's a really, really long question. It's longer than most of them that I've had. And it's about, who wants to be a millionaire in a car for 500 up to a million. And that will just take me too long to answer. It's probably requires a video of its own, to be honest, to be able to answer that properly. So we won't do that today, but all the questions that were answered actually in the comment section of Wednesday's video are here. I've also been using my secret mission documents to annotate some of these answers, and so I think we'll just have to get on with this, won't we? So Birdie of CI5, real name Barry, whose Pontiac Firebird you would have seen on the channel last year, says, who was harder, the professionals or the Sweeney? Oh, that's a difficult question. That's almost like, which one do you prefer? I mean, I personally prefer the professionals. Some of you will prefer the Sweeney. I think Bodie's going to be a pretty hard person to beat in a fight. He's really sort of in shape, and he's former SAS. Gosh, you're not going to beat him in a fight. Thing about Reagan and Carter is they drink pretty hard. They're not necessarily in the best shape, particularly John Ford, who always looks far older than he actually was. So I'm going to say the professionals. Richard Howlett says, design your perfect everyday car. Body style, engine, I know what it won't be. Yes, it won't be powered by the forbidden fuel. What wheels driven, what technologies it have. I'm sure it would be green with a tan interior and a manual handbrake. Right, well, let's have a look then, shall we? I think for me, and some of you are going to hate me for this, it's probably going to be a small capacity turbo engine with chain drive, so we don't have anything like silly wet timing belts or anything like that. So the engine that's in a Kia Rio, for example, that maybe a little bit more power, that would be better, because that's not that powerful, that one. Maybe 120 horsepower would be fine. I'd like actually four-wheel drive with a two-wheel drive lock system on it, because sometimes winters do get a bit crazy. Having four-wheel drive and most of winter tyres is going to help sometimes. The body style, probably a large hatchback, like an Insignia or the Toledo I used to have. Sort of a large hatchback with a saloon look to it, I think, is my favourite. Definitely dark green, dark green metallic, manual handbrake, beige leather interior. Has to be very comfortable. I'd like one with start-stop. I know some of you hate start-stop, but I quite like it. I know I'm strange. Definitely cruise control. 360-degree parking camera would be wonderful for someone like me. I'm not massively good at parking, personally. You heard that here first. Blind spot monitoring. I would love to have blind spot monitoring on a car. I have driven one of blind spot monitoring. It's invaluable, really. It's very safe. Heated seats, yes. Hydraulic power steering would be very nice. I'd like to have a car with hydraulic power steering. Much better steering feel. And 6-speed manual gearbox, of course, too. That'd be nice. Colin Hicks asks, will you be able to test any of your new Dacias? Well, not really. We've kind of covered this in a video a few weeks ago. We talked about, why I can't film certain cars. And Dacia is one of the manufacturers, but actually quite difficult to get hold of. If, ask anybody who's, in the industry, but they're not easy to get hold of. And having no relationship with, a Dacia dealership or the press office, and they're harder to get hold of than I think BMWs and Audis actually, Dacias. So I don't think we'll be seeing one of those, unfortunately. Much as I'd like to, I'd definitely like to film one, unless somebody offers me one, which I don't know if that will happen or not. regarding reading review of new Hyundai, I was wondering, would you buy a Clio? I don't know. The older ones certainly were quite bad. I drove a Mark II Clio that belonged to a friend of mine a while ago, and that was very bad. Um, Lots and lots of problems with that car. But fair enough, it was 12 years old or something, but yeah, not great. Mark III Clio was a bit better, but still, a number of problems. The Mark IV, Mark V, I don't know any bang about them, to be honest. And they've got a nice long warranty now, so I don't know. If you want to watch a review of the new Clio that came out in 2020, just watch for one on the Planet Auto channel. They had one quite recently. Other than that, I haven't really got a lot else to say about them, to be honest. Mr. Ashraf on Cars asks, of all the cars you've driven, which had the best gear change? I think that the easiest gear change I've ever drove was the 2015 Kia Rio on Sensible Secondhand Reviews. Incredibly easy gear change, like nothing else I've ever done. It's so light and easy. But that's not really what you want to hear. The best gear change I think I've used is the one in the NB Mazda MX-5. Superb gear change. It's probably no surprise to hear that. I also like the gearbox in the Jaguar E-Type I drove last year, but that wasn't the standard gearbox. That was a Quaife 5-speed that had been put in later, so that doesn't really count. Jonathan Bramble notes that he sent in some pictures to be considered for the viewer's car video, which yes, I have received, and we'll be doing that at some point next week. That'll be out. There are a few more days to send those in, and if you look at the Wednesday's video, I actually might do this for this one as well. I'll put the details how to send in pictures or video of your cars in the comment section below. Fergus Ogilvie says, the question is, in the world of electric vehicles, is it time to move across or wait until the range and batteries are better? Then we've got the fact that the new Renault EV prototype looks like a Renault 5. Well, that's because I think they're going to launch it as a Renault 5. You seem to be as a little nostalgic as I am. Yes, we're all a bit nostalgic on this channel. What older car would you like to see brought back as an XDV? Well, like a Rover 75 would be quite nice as an EV, to be honest, because they're all the engines in a 75 do have a number of flaws in them. They're great, but they do have the flaws, and that would be a lovely, comfortable car. I mean, I hope they sort the suspension and rust proofing out, because those are, again, common flaws with a 75 and an MG ZT. But that would be a very nice car to be brought back as an EV. In terms of when is it time to move across to an EV, the car that's changed my mind about that recently is the MG5 EV. That has a range of over 200 miles, and it costs about the same as a comparably equipped fossil fuel powered estate car that would be. So with the long warranty that they've got, and the fact that everything's really quite simple to operate for a modern car, I'd say going across to that would be pretty good. It does have rapid charging capability too. It's not as fast as some cars out there, but it will definitely, I hope, actually encourage people to go electric. That's the one I've seen that I think encourages me more than anything else. But some people would prefer to wait for them to come down in price a little bit and for range to be increased. But yes, it's very much a turning point now. If you don't like the style of the MG5 EV, but you can just buy an MG ZS EV. Those are about the same price. Not as but good a range on that, but a bit more technology to play with and things like that. David H asks, do you think PSA, or Stellantis as it is now, should ditch the Vauxhall brand and use Opel instead? I think that the Opel brand would sell equally well as the Vauxhall and would hopefully appeal more to younger drivers. I'm sure there would also be some cost savings. I don't know. The Vauxhall brand here is very well known. It's just, I think almost as well known as Ford. And Ford is not a British brand. It's an American brand that they tailor their vehicles for this country. And obviously, for many years they were built over here. It's not the case anymore, but it used to be. Vauxhall was always a bit like that when General Motors used to own it. They owned it since I think 1925. And the cars were always a bit different from the General Motors cars built in America. They had design studios over here, and of course in the continent too. It's just a very familiar thing to have, and I think it would lose a lot of recognition if that was to happen. Although there would be some cost savings, and I'm not sure I'd be averse to it myself. I think a lot of people would not make the connection. Some people obviously would do, particularly older people, would remember that until 1988, Vauxhalls and Opels were sold together. I think the last car to wear the Opel badge was the Manta in this country. So I don't know. It's an interesting question. Alan Simpson asks, if someone asked you to source a Peugeot 207 with a Prince engine, well, that's most of them, would you A, do it with gusto and enthusiasm, B, ask them why that particular car and if no good reason, suggest some alternatives, C, tell them you tried but you couldn't find a good one and advise them to buy something else instead, D, refuse, E, laugh and then refuse, F, do something else completely different? Peugeot 207 is just not a good car. It just isn't. I mean, you can watch my review on Tweed Jacket Reviews of it, but I'll put a link to in the description below if I remember. But it's just not a good car. Mr. Coleman will tell you that. Even Simon from Langley Prestige, who used to actually be a sales manager for Peugeot back in the day, will probably agree with me there. They just weren't good. I did actually had this situation happen where somebody watched my 207 review, and I'm not going to give obviously the name away or anything, but they commented on the video and asked if I would source a car from us, which is of course I did a little search for them, and eventually decided to get something else, but I did a little search for them, and none of the cars I was looking for was a 207. I just would not advise somebody to buy one. Just wouldn't. I mean, some people have had experiences that have been okay with them, and sometimes that's the case. A bad car can be good, or a good car can be bad, but generally they're just no good. And I think it's really, you just ask them why they want that particular one, and then suggest a decent alternative. I'm afraid that's a very boring answer, but that's the best one I got, I'm afraid. Dave Cuss says, what's your opinion on the Laguna coupe, and do you think it'll be a future classic? Well, the Peugeot 504 coupe certainly is a classic, and that was made, I think, 69, 70 that came out, and they made them until about the end of the decade. And yes, there have been other cars like that, particularly with the 407 coupe. It was a much better looking car than the 407 Saloon. Those I think probably will be classics at some point. I don't know about now. The 406 coupe, for example, is gradually starting to become one, and the decent examples do change hands with decent money now. Laguna coupe, if it was a V6 one, yes, I don't see why not. Mr. Andy G says, my question to you, sir, is what you just say your top 5 cars are for under £7,000 for a 17-year-old to learn to drive and to own? Well, we've got a selection here. On top of the list is an MG3 1.5 style. There's Group 4 insurance. There's plenty around now. The only issue with those is that you'd be looking at the pre-facelift models, which, is from probably, you want to start at the early 2016 cars, which are called the stop-start cars, because they have slightly modified engineering, which means they don't suffer from some of the issues that the 2013 to sort of early 2016 cars suffer from, like ours. The fuel pump we had is not something that's known to fail on the stop-start cars, for example. So Group 4 insurance, hydraulic steering, very, very good chassis. Not a huge amount of power, but enough for somebody who's 17. Certainly more than enough, really. Very spacious as well, and lots of airbags and things if anything goes wrong. Next one would be the third generation Kia Rio, like the one we did in Sensible Secondhand Reviews quite recently. That's a fantastic car. You probably would want to stick with a 1.25 litre engine, which is fast enough for somebody who's 17, really. And if you're very, very blessed, you might actually find one, and actually you probably would find one of those that's under warranty. plenty of those around. Not quite fourth generation territory yet in terms of the pricing, but not far off. Hyundai i20, very similar car to the Rio, same engineering really. I just think the Rio's slightly nicer than the i20, but you know they are similar, and you can sometimes find an i20 for under £7,000 with some of the 5-year warranty remaining on it. Next car will be a Skoda Fabia. Just got to watch the wet timing belt on the 1 litre engines. That might be a problem, but generally they're pretty good cars. They're pretty reliable. I've got a review of this. We were talking about the current generation, but pre-facelift. I've got a review of one of those actually on the channel, which belongs to Mr. Franks, my videographer. He has the estate version. Last one would be the Mazda 2. Now, with the Mazda 2, the insurance on was a little bit expensive, which is why I've put it right down the list. But you can actually buy a current generation Mazda 2 for about 2017. I've just seen one for under £7,000, and that's probably the most kind of stylish, grown-up one of them all. But I very much do like those cars. I always like Mazdas, really. So yeah, that would be the last pick on the list. Right, Sean Cook has asked me an absolute monster of a question. Absolutely huge one. Let's just get on with this. I know you intend to keep the Rover 45 V6 forever. Well, maybe not forever, but, you know, for a long time. Should the worst happen, it needs to be scrapped. Yes, well, you know, that's happened to a few of them. Would you consider any of these contemporary alternatives with high spec and maybe V6 engines? Volvo S60, S80 with 2 litre turbo, Saab 9.3, Mondeo 2.5 V6, Vauxhall Vectra, stroke Signum, not Sintra. We won't talk about that on this channel. Rover 45 V6, Peugeot 607 V6, VW Bora VR6, Audi A4 V6, Hyundai Sonata V6, Kia Magentis V6, Toyota Camry V6, Nissan QX, Mitsubishi Galant V6, Mazda 6. It's not there wasn't ever actually a V6 version of that. That's just the standard model. Honda Accord, Lexus IS straight 6, Mercedes C-Class V6 and Jaguar X-Type V6. Right, well, let's just go through these in this order. Volvo S60, yep, done a review of one of those on the channel with the lovely white block engine in it. Yes, I'd have one of those. It'd have to be a certain type of spec for me, quite a high spec one, and a sort of nice, dark green, dark blue, beige leather interior. Hopefully one that's they're not too high on the miles. Mr. Coleman says that, you know, the higher miles on was the better. Volvo S80, yes, probably a little bit big for me, the S80, a little bit of a large side, but it's a very good car nevertheless, and you can still buy them very cheaply. The Saab 9.3, huge range of engines in one of those. I get a bit concerned about Saab reliability. I'm just not sure about it. It's not even so much you can't, you know, get the parts because the manufacturer's not around anymore. It's not so much that. It's just I don't know if they're the most reliable cars out there, which is silly, you know, talking about sitting in the 45 V6. But there we go. Mondeo 2.5 V6. Yeah, very happy to have one of those. Very good engine actually. Vauxhall Vectra or Signum V6. I think I'd maybe go for the turbo actually. There is a turbo Vectra or Signum available. They're very rare. I think I'd actually prefer that in some ways, although V6 is also good. Rover 45 V6, you know, I like them, but, you know, having a KV6 car, I'm not sure I necessarily want another KV6 car, really. Peugeot 607, I just never like the look of them particularly. The 406 is a much more handsome car, in my opinion. VW Bora VR6, well, they're quite rare, but they're not common. There's also the V5 too with those, and the problem with that is Mr. Coleman doesn't like Volkswagens, and he wouldn't work on it, so I'd be a bit stuck if I got one of those because he wouldn't want to touch it. Audi A4 V6, one of my subscribers actually got one of those, and I've seen it. Excuse me. When he very kindly came to fit the radio for this car, he came in the A4, and yeah, it's a nice car. Pretty good engine actually, that as well, and even Mr. Coleman thinks so. So Yeah, basically, baby. Hyundai Sonata V6 or Kia Genesis V6. Yeah, absolutely. I would have one of those. The only thing about those is the parts might be a bit difficult to get hold of, actually, because they're not the most common cars. Camry V6 only sold in this country till about 2002. I'm not sure I like the styling of that so much. You know, they're okay. I know that I'd be very reliable, but yeah, I just don't know if I like the styling of that particular generation of Camry. Nissan QX, yeah, the QX or the Maxima QX, which it was renamed to later. I quite like those, but again, it'd have to be the right colour combination, of course. Mitsubishi Galant V6, the Planet Auto people had one of those actually for a while. I think it was an estate they had, if I remember. I can't remember, but yeah, they seem to like that. Mazda 6, yeah, I'd have one of those, no question. Even the 2-litre petrol one. They have to have parking sensors though, because the rear visibility of those is terrible. You know, the right sort of trim combination for me. Honda Accord, yeah, the 2.4. I'm not sure we got the V6 of that generation in this country. I don't remember particularly, but yeah, that's a decent car. That XSIS with the straight six, I think it is, rather than the V6 actually in those. I do like those very much. Most of them going to be silver. I'd prefer a darker coloured one with a light coloured interior, but they tend to rust quite badly. That's really the only problem with those. C-Class, it's not really much of a thing, unfortunately. It's it's not much of a thing. X-Type, I have reviewed an X-Type V6 on the channel, and yeah, so I quite liked it. The only thing is terrible cell rot on those. Dreadful cell rot, really bad, which would sort of put me off, I think, if I was going to keep that for a long time. Just as an addendum, I've been asked about the Alpha 156 with the Busso 2.5 as well. Yes, if I lived next door to Mr. Coleman, then I'd be driving one of those every day. But the Busso V6 in a 24-valve form, transversely mounted like that is a nightmare to work on, and so maybe not the best idea to run as an everyday car for someone like me. Right, I think we've gone through all the questions. I think this is the last one, and of course it's Trabelli who likes to send him on secret missions. Wie kann es besser sein als ein BMW? In 1993, the boys in Bavaria are going bonkers. There are rumours that Rover has developed a car with Honda. It's a BMW beta, entered a Rover 600. Its launch day, and to the surprise of staff at Cowley, it's a flagship model 623 GSI 111 UVO that was due to be unveiled to the world press, and it's missing. Disaster. But you, Mr. Lloyd, as always, have intelligence that the competition has stolen it, and it's heading towards Margate on a trailer to catch a private boat to Dunkirk and then on to Munich. You have to stop them, and you're in Bournemouth. That's 178 miles from Margate. First, you need a four-door British saloon. It has to be under 10 seconds, 0 to 60. Available in 1993 to get to Margate. But a French saloon with the same conditions, drive from Dunkirk to Strasbourg, that's about 400 miles. And a German four-door saloon from Strasbourg to Munich, that's about 280 miles. Hope you get the car back, as you might have to delete the Rover 600 videos. Well, I'm pleased to say, sir, that we have done some investigation, and we are going to be okay. So I was going to hoping to go in a Rover 800 Coupe, because they've just been launched about that time, but it's a four-door saloon, so we'll have to go for the normal 827 Sterling, which has the Honda 2.7, and that will easily make 178 miles to Margate without filling up probably. In France, nothing really would come close in my mind at that time to the Peugeot 605 with a V6 engine. Very nice. I think even the 24 valve was out at that time. I can't remember if that's a pre or post facelift one in 1993. But yes, nice dark blue with a beige leather interior. That would suit me nicely. Possibly a manual one. Strasbourg to Munich. Audi V8 4.2 litre. Without any shadow of a doubt. I know that there are some nice BMWs out there, but we're not supporting that mark, aren't we, for our mission? I could go in a Mercedes, but I just fancy the Audi V8. I think it's a lovely car. So hopefully that is going to get me there, and the future of the Rover Group is temporarily saved. So there we are, some of your questions. I do apologise, the lights probably gone a bit dark now. It's just the way the weather is today. There's not an awful lot I can do about that. But we'll do another one of these next month. We'll maybe do a live video, not tomorrow, but next weekend as well. We'll do another one of those, and hopefully that will satisfy your needs to ask me all these ridiculous questions. But don't forget to subscribe to the channel to be informed of new videos. Click the notification bell. We will be having another part to the peculiar old car adverts soon. I do those literally because you like them. They easily get demonetized, which is a pain in a way, but because all YouTube ad revenue is down at the moment, it's not really too much of a problem, I suppose. Then yes, do like this video, leave a comment below. And thank you very much indeed to all of those people once again who asked the questions. And yes, see you again next week.